Hello and welcome back. It is episode 85 of the Saints FC podcast. The sun is shining. Pubs are going to be opening in a week and a half. Southampton have had a 3-0 away victory, and I've got Tom Parker on the line. Tom, I think my life is... Have I just won?
I think you've just won. I mean, I'm looking forward to going to the barber to get my hair is wild, but I just think I'll turn up at the barber about 9 a.m. on that Saturday morning, have my hair cut, and then just go to the pub after that.
Tom, I quite like your longer locks. I've seen a photo of you on your wife's Instagram, and I think it suits you. You're kind of like a curly-haired blonde guy when you haven't got your kind of, South London cool,
edgy haircut.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to keep it longer, but it just needs to be neat, John. It's too hot to be carrying this much hair.
Yeah. See, I don't know. The barber is one of the ones which I'm a little bit more nervous about. But I guess if you're the first one in, the first hair they cut, then the risks are low, right? Because how do you do social distancing at a barber's?
Well, I guess if they're wearing sort of gloves and a face mask, and maybe they make you wear a face mask. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. But at the end of the day, you've got to keep neat no matter what the situation's on.
I mean, especially if you're in, the kind of cool areas of central London that you roam about in. In West Devon where I am, being hairy is just that's part of the course, really, isn't it?
I was going to say something inappropriate there, but I'm not going to. But you're looking pretty hirsute, John. You're growing out, I think it's safe to
say. Yeah. I don't think the hair's kind of reached an acceptable. It's like it's not long enough to be kind of like cool long hair, and it's definitely not tidy. But I've been trying out the beard, Tom. I quite like it. I've got to decide whether to keep the beard or go back to the moustache. And I haven't made my mind up yet.
You should do a poll. That sort of like for this, retweet for the other one.
Yeah.
The only way, let the people decide, John.
Let the people decide. But the thing is, the people will decide on one thing, and that'll probably be when I've realised, actually, I want it the other way. Tom, I've also started a new fitness regime, and I did an exercise class today just so that I could definitely have a beer whilst we recorded this. So,
I mean, yeah, that is impressive. I can't get my head around that. Very impressive.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's been a bit of middle-age spread, and there's been a bit of lockdown spread, because I normally cycle into work every day, and funny enough, when I stopped going into work, I just continued eating. In fact, probably eating even more because there's more stuff available in the house to snack on. So I've gone up a few kilos, aiming to go down a few kilos. My wife has signed up for some fitness thing, so I'm just kind of like using her login on that. Yeah, and doing some exercise classes. But yeah, I did a brutal cardio exercise class, which means that I've got enough calories in the bank to enjoy this bottle of Elvis juice. A grapefruit infused IPA.
You love your slightly unusual beers, don't you, John?
Yeah, well, I think you're drinking something, quite far out for you.
I'm drinking a hop house lager, which for me is basically I've gone wild. This is as crazy and hoppy as I get, but yeah, it's nice. Gotta go. It's nice. No complaints from me.
Okay, great.
But yeah. So a win, John.
A win, exactly. Now we've got the kind of pleasantries out the way. Let's get down to business. I was feeling pretty nervous about this game. I don't know why, because I kind of know that we're a better side than Norwich. And, we saw that at St Mary's early in the season. But I think there was just that nervousness of, have our players been doing as much as opposition teams' players in the lockdown? Are our players going to be fit? Are they going to be able to implement the manager's tactics? Having not done it for so long, and all these questions which we asked ourselves in the last episode. And I think probably the most common phrase, if you listen back to last week's episode, is, well, I don't know, Tom, or I don't know, John.
We had no answer to it. I don't know what value. Anyone who listened to it must have been, I don't actually understand what am I listening to here? Because we added nothing.
Despite that, we've had some, lukewarm praise from our No, lots of people were kind of very pleased to have the podcast back in their lives. So, obviously we did take some time off, and I think we came back at a fairly kind of mediocre-ish level. I don't think we were dreadful. I don't think we stormed out of the blocks. But I think our return to podcasting was better than Saints' first 15 minutes in the game against Norwich. And those first 15 minutes, Tom, my worry just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was slightly terrified by about 15 minutes in.
It was reminiscent, wasn't it, of very early season Saints, like with the fear, that sort of Burnley, so in terms of that just chaotic defending, like real like last ditch madness, like players seemingly forgetting how to do the most basic thing, and really only thank God for Danny Ings and his sort of life-saving tackle at that back post.
I know we're going to have to wax lyrical about Danny Ings in this match, because he was pretty sensational, very deserving of the man of the match award, which I think he got at the end of the game. But yeah, those first 15 minutes we looked really rusty. Nothing was working, nothing was clicking. Norwich were quickest to every ball, and it looked like they wanted it more than us. And
they were out saintsing Saints, weren't they, in a way?
Yeah, it was strange to watch, and I don't know what the turning point was, but it's almost like something clicked into gear, and suddenly they knew what they were doing. I wonder, was it that Jack Stevens tackle and then marauding forward and then him passing the ball to Danny Ings, and then Ings pinging it off the crossbar, or was it the Ings challenge?
I think it was kind of before then. I think it was sort of some point between the Ings challenge, because the Ings challenge was super early. It was after only a few minutes from memory, and then I think Jack Stevens was maybe 30, when he turned his Beckenbauer again. And by the way, I'd love to know how many goal scoring chances Jack Stevens has created for us this year. He's got like 3 assists, doesn't he? But I think it's like a lot of these teams, isn't it? It's a bit like Pompey, isn't it? When we play Pompey, and they are super up for it, and they fly out of the gate, and then they hammer away, and then it doesn't work, and then you realise you don't have a plan B.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's almost like a psychological thing of like, we've given it everything we've got, and it's still not worked. And I thought, they played really well in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes. They played well, and we played terribly. But they did after that. They just sort of gave up the ghost. And you kind of there's 2 ways of looking at it, isn't it? You can really admire Norwich for trying to play out of the back. Like I watched Man City last night, and they play out of like ridiculously difficult situations. Admittedly only Burnley, but they play out of ridiculously difficult situations. They do it so well. And then you watch Norwich, and Norwich just lack the quality. And you wonder, because also what Saints do. Saints are set up to press you in your in the final third of the pitch, and to convert the ball, win the ball back, and create chances. And that's how we score goals. That's generally how we score goals. We turnovers high up the pitch, and what we struggle with is big long balls, raking balls over the top to big physical strikers who can rough up our centre backs. And Norwich, to their sort of mad credit of I don't know, like a cavalry charging at a machine gun nest, they just sort of kept doing it, didn't they? Kept trying to play the ball out from the back, and you just wonder what's going on there.
It's kind of baffling, isn't it, when you look at it, because the whole system is very, very clear, and that's the one thing that you see these the players talking about with Ralph, is like that clarity of system. To see it kind of going off like that was just totally bizarre, really. But it worked in the end, Tom. We got there. We got there with the pressing definitely worked. And I don't know, the other thing that I noticed, and I can't remember, was the first water break, which was kind of like a timeout used in the game. Was that used by Norwich in the first half, wasn't it? Just as the tide was starting to turn.
Well, we got a corner, didn't we? And I didn't know. I didn't know that, John. So is that right? So the opposite, teams can choose to have a water break. Is that right? I thought it was like a mandated thing by the referee at certain points in the game. I don't know.
I think it's. I think the team chooses. I don't know. Now
because it seemed weird because Saints were just getting on top of it, and we had a corner, didn't we? And then I was like, oh no, they've got a water break, and it was so weird because you're like, it was just so strange. You know, I'm not sure. It would seem a weird thing to be able to. It's weird on both counts. It's weird if an opposition can call a water break at a time when they're under pressure.
Right, I've just figured it out. It's not the teams that call it. It's the referee, apparently. So the timing of the break is at the discretion of the referee, and they will probably happen around about halfway through each half.
Yeah, which I think they did. It was like 22 minutes, wasn't it? But it was a weird time. You think you just do it when the ball goes out in the middle of the park and it's happening.
Yeah, before a corner was quite an odd time.
Before a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really felt like Saints were in the ascendancy then as well.
And it took the wind out of our sails a little bit. But all credit to Saints because they kept at it. And I think, despite the best efforts of Valerie, who, poor guy, like, he just looks shot, doesn't he? He really looks like he's just no confidence. I mean, I was at that, I think, it was the Newcastle game when he got totally done by St. Maximilian, and he doesn't look like he's really learned his lesson from that game. The difference is St. Maximilian is a much better player probably than anything Newcastle had or anything Norwich had, but apart from Valerie, they all kind of stepped up, and I thought, a few of the players, they looked rusty. I thought Højbjerg grew into the game, was definitely rusty at the beginning, but yeah, we just stuck at it, and I think after the second half, we just got the quality of Saints just told, and they just didn't really get near us.
We looked so much better in that second half, and it was kind of wave after wave of attack at that point, and every time we won the ball back. And actually, especially attacking from deep, which is quite unusual from Saints, watching that front four surge forward, so Obafemi, Ings, Stuart Armstrong and Nathan Redmond was incredibly exciting. Like every time they surged forward and you had all four players like sprinting forward, creating space, stretching the defence, giving each other opportunities, looking for the ball, looking for the pass. It was great to watch, and seeing them kind of break with an explosiveness that I don't know if we've actually seen in much of the rest of the season. I mean, there was the goal we scored against Tottenham at White Hart Lane in the FA Cup replay, and that was pretty close to the start of the lockdown, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't that long after that, but that was really the first time I think we've seen that sort of explosive counter-attack. And we saw that quite a few times on Friday night. And each time I was just, I was so excited to watch them coming forward. And, we had that Ings and Armstrong combination, and then Armstrong and Ings combination. And then obviously we had the Nathan Redmond goal as well. Tom, do you want to take us through the first one? What do you make of that?
We got a bit of luck, didn't we? It was all. I mean, I think we get very excited. I'm also very excited, but I mean, Norwich were awful, weren't they? I mean, you have to kind of temper it with that. I mean, true, Saints can only beat what's been in front of them. Norwich were awful, but I mean, from memory somewhere, it's a sort of bit of a feeble throw in. And Norwich is one of the things that surprised me is how weak Norwich were in the tackle, which is something, for Armstrong's goal was particularly true, but. Well, the nice thing with Ings' finish, wasn't it, is that he could have he's not been in a really good run of games. I think, one goal in 7 before the Norwich game, which obviously for him and Freddie, like Premier League striker, is pretty awful. He did miss that chance in the first half and probably should have scored. But it was just an arrowed finish, wasn't it? Like a beautiful curled, no hesitation. Almost a bit like a sort of Harry Kane sort of just deadly finish.
Yeah,
it was great. It was a lovely goal.
I see what you mean when you're talking about kind of Harry Kane. It was that like instinctual, right, I've got the ball in the box, I'm shooting. Didn't even take a touch, just kind of curves it back in. And Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it came from a Ryan Bertrand throw, didn't it? Then a few scrappy headers, and then I don't even know if Stuart Armstrong even meant to necessarily pass it to him, but it worked. And then obviously the Armstrong goal as well, which was what 4 or 5 minutes later. And that came from that kind of surge from deep, Ings passing it, and then Armstrong taking it across the box. I think all the rest of them were expecting him to pass it, and then it was a lovely tidy finish into the bottom corner, wasn't it?
Was it that goal, or was it the Redmond goal that Ings wins the ball back in our own half? I think that might have been the Redmond goal, but I mean, but also it was the sort of the weak tackles, isn't it? If you were a Saints fan, Saints played like that, you go absolutely bloody mad because Armstrong is not like a physically strong. He's not like a Traore, is he? And they sort of just 3 of them sort of fanny around him, like sort of limply putting legs out, and it was a really good finish. To be fair, but isn't it exciting? I think is he our best sort of midfield long range striker of the ball? I think, and I'm trying to think of someone we've had who probably can hit the ball more consistently well from long range than Stuart Armstrong. I'm probably missing someone glaringly obvious here, but he's just got such talent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have like Redmond, you've got James Ward-Prowse kind of in the current setup who can do it. I mean, Højbjerg can, but 90% of them go into row Z, and one of them is a worldie.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think James. I mean, I can't really think of any open play long range goals from James Ward-Prowse.
No.
I mean, I'm not being facetious. I can't, and I think with the great thing, Saints seem to have a really good thing going on with that front 4, and you can also swap out Obafemi for Long, and I think we're probably actually stronger with Long than we are with Obafemi, because I think Long has the pace, the strength, but also has better decision making probably than Obafemi is. But just what it's the, and again it's only Norwich, but what it's great to see is it's kind of that front 4 is panic, isn't it? It's like panic stations when they run forward, and it's great to see. Someone on Twitter compares the red arrows, like where they all go in formation, and it is a bit like that.
I like.
But yeah, that was it as a game.
Yeah,
that was it as a game, wasn't it? After that, I mean, I think Norwich even took off Cantwell and a few other players, just sort of almost admitting defeat at that point.
Yeah, I think in the end they had Buendia, Cantwell, and Pukki all off on the bench, so they'd obviously given up at that point. Obviously the third goal was another kind of surge forward. I think you're right. I think it came from an Ings tackle, kind of just inside the Saints half, and then I can't remember who he played it forward to then, but obviously it came across to. Was it Obafemi? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and Obafemi made the right. After making a bad decision a couple of times in the game, Obafemi made the right decision to do the simple thing. It's a sweet finish though, wasn't it, John?
Oh, lovely again. And the thing about both, I mean, Danny Ings' shot was, a lot of power, nice bit of whip on it. But both the Armstrong and the Redmond goals were both beautifully placed into that bottom corner. And they hit them, none of them were hit really hard. They were just placed just out of reach it's Tim Krul, isn't it, in goal for Norwich?
Yeah, he's a good goalkeeper as well, Tim Krul.
He is a good goalkeeper, and it's nice to see that. It's nice to see them kind of picking out those perfect places. And I wonder if, do you think that is part of the fact that we might have been watching with crowd noise in the background, but for the players, there's no crowd noise. Do you think they feel less anxious when they're in goal? Is it a bit, how we see all those social media videos of Saints players banging it in time after time in training?
Oh God, yeah.
Do you think this feels a little bit more like a training game, and then therefore the pressure's off and you're more likely to finish? I mean, obviously.
Well, I think with Redmond as well. Like Armstrong, there's no doubting his finishing, but Redmond, for all his talent, doesn't probably get enough goals. As he should do for his brilliant play and how skillful and how talented he is. But also, I've always thought Redmond does have a tendency to go big, doesn't he? So it's always like mega hard hit at the ball.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that was something different, because he always sort of goes top corner. Just to sort of, he almost like passed it, didn't he? I mean, the two as well, he sort of gave the eyes to the two Norwich defenders and they fell for it. But, again, like what a talented player and what a sort of brilliant ambassador for the club Redmond is. And I think I think you mentioned it last time, John, that, before the break, with Redmond injured, you do worry about Saints, in terms of like just having that extra spark up front, that extra bit of the X factor, the unknown. And I think,
especially with Gineppo suspended as well, that would have been a really tough run of games without. Both Redmond and Gineppo have that little bit of magic, don't they?
They do, and I think what they do have, Gineppo less than Redmond, although Gineppo is obviously, still getting used to English football, which, I criticise him a lot. But Boufal, I find his decision making is often off, and he doesn't score the goals that he should score, and he often misses fairly simple chances. And I think, we've got a sort of three very good wingers, but none of them are anywhere near it. Like, Redmond is by far and away the most effective. And I think with Redmond as well, he causes panic, doesn't he? He causes just a little bit of chaos. And I think that our front three is kind of, on the four, where you include Armstrong, is very much like about causing chaos.
Yeah. And it's kind of like Armstrong and Redmond, there's that perfect balance, isn't there? Yeah. Armstrong is a very sensible, tidy football player, and Redmond has got that bit of magic, that bit of trickery. It's kind of that perfect balance that you want, where you've got someone that can. I mean, to call Armstrong, I feel like I'm doing Armstrong down because he's obviously got a lot of skill and a lot of talent, but he's a different sort of player from Redmond, and they offer something different, going forward. But they're both exciting to watch. They're both seemingly becoming very effective. And I think maybe the difference between Redmond and Armstrong is, perhaps it is experience, but they both have a better footballing mind, I think, than Sofiane Boufal. It's probably too early for me to say on Gineppo. I think Gineppo is kind of like, he's got that explosive, style and character, but and sometimes you look at what he does and you think he must be a genius. Then other times you think, what was he thinking there? But I think kind of Redmond and Armstrong have kind of honed their mind to the Premier League and the pace of it and the way to get around defenders and the way to kind of work in Ralph's system. And it's looking very, very effective. And I'm really excited about, watching them both again on Thursday.
Oh, I mean, I think that with Armstrong as well, it's how, we're not strong at right back. There's no doubt about that. And what Armstrong gives, it's just the discipline, isn't it? Because obviously with Bertrand is solid as a rock, so Redmond can be a bit nuts.
Yeah.
Whereas we're not that way. Right back, we are far from that. So just Armstrong being as disciplined and as intelligent a footballer as he is. And I think a lot of other teams will be looking at players like Armstrong and they're like, how are we not getting players like this? For what, like £6-7 million north of the border? He's what, like 4 Premier League goals this season, 5 Premier League goals this season, plus a few assists. I mean, it's a really good return. And the thing is, he's kind of making himself, he ain't going to get dropped, is he, from that team? There's no way they can drop him.
No, and it's interesting as well because he was kind of like always Ralph's sub to bring on. And he's one of those players I think kind of probably when you first see him, he's not compelling enough to throw right in there because you're not like, wow, this guy's going to be insane. We can't possibly cope without him. But the more and more you see him, the more and more you want him in your team. And
he reminds me of like Jim Magilton.
Oh yeah. So Tom, for the younger listeners, explain what Jim Magilton did for Saints.
So Jim Magilton was a very, and this sounds like an insult, and it's definitely not an insult, a very steady and solid Northern Irish international that played for Saints. I can't remember where he signed from, possibly someone like Sheffield Wednesday. But he played in that team with Matty and Neil Maddison and Jason Dodd and players like that. And he was just, from when I was only a kid, but he was always just he was a bit like a Stephen Davis, like a very intelligent, good user of the ball, didn't waste it, occasional long-range perler. And just to sort of, you can imagine other players would have been like, that's the sort of player they want to play with. You know, someone who puts no ego, sort of puts the team first. Yeah, Jim Adilson was a good footballer.
And he kind of, by them being tidy and clear in what they're doing, they're offering opportunities for the likes of Nathan Redmond or Obafemi or anyone else working around them to have that little spark of creativity, because they can rely on Armstrong. And you mentioned the right back position as well, Tom. I've got a whole section of this podcast called Cedric, KWP, Valerie, and why we can't get the right back position right. Should we do that now?
It seems like a good time, doesn't it?
Because Stuart Armstrong is kind of covering that position, despite all this waxing lyrical we've been doing about him going forward. He is providing a bit of cover, and when he's not providing cover, it looks worrying, doesn't it? Because Valerie is... I remember last season, Tom, you and I were watching, I think it was Saints versus Liverpool, and we actually thought that Valerie looked as good as, if not better than, Trent Alexander-Arnold in that game at St Mary's. And he scored that great goal at Old Trafford, and he played really well towards the end of last season. And now in my kind of highlights reel that I'm running through my bubble in my mind, I'm not really thinking of much defensive stuff in there. Has he always been a terrible defender? Or
I don't know.
Because I can't remember him being a dreadful defender at the end of last season, but I do remember lots of really great stuff about him going forward. He still caused a little bit of trouble going forward on Friday, but he looked dreadful in defence.
Yeah. But he's a modern fullback, isn't he? Like the whole idea of that modern fullback where they can't defend. The whole point is, you don't need to defend, don't worry about it. I mean, I think Valerie, something's happened. I mean, I don't remember him being a. And when I say I don't remember, I guess this is kind of last season because he's been pretty poor this season. I don't remember him being a really bad defender last season. I remember him being sort of a classic young, more attack-minded fullback. But I don't remember. His head's kind of gone, isn't it, defending-wise? But he still looks really good going forward. And there was one bit of the Norwich game. He had a lovely bit of skill where he took out a couple of players and tried to create a chance for Saints. But his head's gone. There's something, there's all sorts of horrible rumours about Valerie. But and he was obviously out for that really long time, which led people to sort of all sorts of horrible speculation. And it turned out he had glandular fever, which anyone who's ever known anyone who's had it, will know that it does actually wipe you out for months. But he's just not. He doesn't look in a team that's all very disciplined. He looks the wild card, doesn't he? He looks the one that's like most likely to make a mistake, almost like a Jos Højveld. You just know he's got a mistake in him.
Yeah. Which then, I suppose, kind of makes you question, well, why isn't Carl Walker-Peters getting a run out? Yeah, we've got a JWP, James Ward-Prowse. Could we not have a KWP? Could we make that work?
Sounds like a regional law firm, JWP and KWP. Well, I don't know. Carl Walker-Peters was funny, wasn't he? Because Ralph gave an interview this week where he said he might start 1 or 2 games. But at the end of the day, if he's not going to sign him permanently, and nothing you read suggests that we are, then you'd argue what's the point?
Well,
unless he's a better player.
I think in response to asking if they were going to extend the loan or make the loan deal permanent. And he said that you don't... I think he used some analogy about picking fruit from a tree, that, the first 2 apples that you pick aren't the best. And then you don't know whether the fruit's any good until, 3rd or 4th or whatever. And I think what he was trying to imply was that, Carl Walker-Peters needed a few games for him to really know if that's the sort of player that he wanted, which is interesting because I think there's other players who haven't had a long run in the team, who've obviously forced themselves up through training, who've demonstrated to Ralph that he is interested in them and he's given them a chance. Whether that's Smallbone or, Nathan Teller got a chance coming on against Norwich as well. So I think those players coming through from the academy are showing the sort of qualities that Ralph likes, that the willingness to work and run hard and be open-minded, as he's often quoted as saying, which he hasn't said that about Carl Walker-Peters yet.
Yeah, and also remember Carl Walker-Peters played, the idea of a pressing game shouldn't be that foreign to Carl Walker-Peters. He was playing under Pochettino until earlier this season. So he's training under Pochettino. So, Saint's style shouldn't be anathema to him. I don't know. He's funny like that. I don't know. I say this as someone who is short. He's very small, isn't he? And I wonder if that's, in a defence we've got where even our centre backs aren't particularly good in the air. We saw this with Cedric, where teams target us relentlessly at that ball over the top. I don't know. I think as well, Carl Walker-Peters had a bit of a, we chucked him in against Burnley, didn't we? And he took a bit of a roasting. As it sort of seems to be a Southampton tradition with small young players. It's just give them a game against Burnley and then never see them ever again. I don't know. He must be a good player. But you wonder, with Valery, with all his clear problems in confidence and defensive decision making, and yet still picked over Carl Walker-Peters. Yeah,
I think in Valery there's a good right back, trying to get out. It's in there somewhere. So someone's got to unlock it. So Tom, here's an interesting question. Would you take Cedric back?
Yeah, I would. I think Cedric. He's not obviously he's obviously a good footballer, right? First and foremost, he's obviously a really good footballer. If you don't win the European Cup, European Championships without being a really good footballer. I would, to be honest. I would. I just think he's not going to come back, is he? They think Arsenal are going to make his deal permanent. But I probably would, because at the end of the day, who would I trust more to do a job? It would probably be Cedric.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because there's been a lot of gloating about, that deal for Cedric, which obviously the timing for Arsenal was dreadful. You can't do worse than that. Sign an injured player on loan. By the time they're recovered, there's a global pandemic and a lockdown. You can't really prepare for that sort of stuff, can you? And that's £5 million for nothing really for Saints. But actually, you look at it and you think, well, with Valery looking dodgy, Carl Walker-Peters obviously not ready. What else do? You don't want to play James Ward-Prowse there, because we saw again that when you put James Ward-Prowse in the midfield, okay, he didn't have like a rambunctious game, but he's effective in the middle.
Yeah. I think Saints probably, obviously Smallbone is the future, isn't he? I think obviously that's, seems to be the way that they've obviously got high hopes for him. And the alternative would be JWP at right back and Smallbone in. But I wonder if Smallbone's a little bit physically not quite there yet. In the way that James Ward-Prowse has sort of buffed himself up and made himself stronger and made him a nasty player. I wonder if Smallbone's still quite nice. But again, I wonder about decision making, because Smallbone was pitched in against West Ham and just got monstered. And you just wonder about
against Villa, didn't he?
Yeah, and you wonder if those. I know they've eventually got to come out. They've eventually got to play the Burnleys and the West Hams of the world, and of course you can't wrap up in cotton wool. But we do sort of do this sometimes. We throw these sort of physically not so strong players in against these giants, and I wonder what the long term impact. But I think, it's interesting, and I think obviously Ralph makes a calculated risk, which is the danger that Valery can cause you at right back is outweighed by the positive impact that James Ward-Prowse brings you in midfield.
Yeah.
And that's the balance.
Anyway, I think probably right back is top of the shopping list, isn't it, for Ralph in the summer?
Yeah.
All things said and done. I don't know why we can't get that right back position right, but hopefully we can over the summer.
I don't think we've really got it right since Nathaniel Klein.
No, He's available, isn't he, on a free transfer? I don't know.
God, what's happened to his career? If anyone has no idea, let us know. But just disappear without trace.
I mean, I guess Alexander-Arnold had something to do with that, and then also injuries had something to do with that. But yeah, it was a shame because Nathaniel Clyne was such a classy right back when we had him.
He was great for Saints.
Really, really great.
So apparently he's leaving Liverpool on July the 1st. He's made 10 appearances in over 2 years.
In the last 2 seasons, is that right?
Yeah, since May 2017.
Yeah, it's dreadful, isn't it? I mean, another player who announced that they were leaving their club was Morgan Schneidlin, who we can put in the category of players that look so wonderful when they're at Saints, but never quite reached that same level again after they left. I mean, despite
gone to Nice, is that right?
Yeah, Nice. Here it's nice down there.
What could have been it could be Schneidlin still there.
Yeah.
Clyne at right back.
I mean, you wouldn't need Højbjerg, would you, if Schneidlin has stayed?
Yeah. So this is part of the problem, isn't it? This is, going off topic a little bit here. It's like someone like Schneidlin could probably still very much do a job for Saints. And we clearly need a kind of box-to-box tackling midfielder, which Schneidlin is. But the problem is, because of nuts wages, that Schneidlin's probably on like 140 grand a week or something insane at bloody Everton. So he's just never going to take a pay cut, is he, to come to Saints?
Yeah, I mean, and also it's kind of one of those things, isn't it? It's like, do you go back to a player? It very rarely works out. I mean, the only player I can really think of who we've had twice and it worked out just as well the second time was Richard Chaplow.
Did he come back to Saints? Was he twice?
Yeah, he did 2 loan spells at Southampton, and then the second loan spell he made permanent. But he came to Saints, I think, on our season, in the duration of us going down from the Premier League to League One. He was with us for half a season, I think. And then he went back to, I think, West Brom, and he played for another couple of clubs. And then he came to Saints again on loan and then became permanent and then was with us with that wonderful journey back up to the Premier League.
Oh yeah, I always liked Chaplow. You should get him on the pod, John.
Chaplow? We've already had him on the pod, Tom.
Yeah, I thought you had. Damn it. I wasn't on that one. I can't keep up anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, let's move on because we've talked a lot about Norwich and we've talked about our right backs. Arsenal. They are who we have next on Thursday at home at St Mary's. Have quite a good record against Arsenal at home. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but I've seen us beat Arsenal a lot of times at home, including a 4-0 with the greatest goal scored by a right back probably ever.
But then you and I also went to see Southampton play Arsenal, didn't we, John, at St Mary's? This week we lost.
So okay. Here's a little sidetrack story. Our next opponents after Arsenal are Watford, and the Watford program editor got in contact with me to give a kind of fans perspective, Saints fans perspective. So they're still doing print programs and posting them out to their subscribers.
That's nice.
It'd probably be the lowest selling program, I imagine, in history, because who knew you could subscribe to get a football program? But apparently that's what they do. So he's going to send me a print copy. But he asked, what was the turning point of Saints' season? And the turning point was after the, the Leicester game. Then there was the Everton game, and there was the 2 Man City games as well. And then we had the international break, and then the away game at Arsenal. I think was that the first game after the international break? And it was 2-2.
Yeah, it was because we were there, weren't we?
Yeah.
I think it was because that international break, because obviously the 9-0 wasn't the worst game for many. The Everton game was almost worse. And then it went international break, and then I'm pretty sure you're right, John. It was that 2-2. Where we were cruelly robbed of a victory. It's a very late Martinelli goal and some really bad finishing from Saints.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could have had 4 or 5 in that game. But it was the game which said Saints are back, wasn't it? There was something about them. There was bite, there was fire, there was effort and
couple of good
dedication
goals.
and good tactics.
Yeah, great first goal by Danny Ings. Really smart little play by Bertrand. Fluff penalty by Ward-Prowse, but then he scored the rebound right in front of us.
Yeah,
there was a lot to like.
But we owe them one, don't we? Because there's no way they should have come out of that with a draw.
No, I mean I'm really excited about. I mean I think on the last pod we did, John, my enthusiasm for the Norwich game, I couldn't maybe quite muster it as much as I would like. I'm really excited about Arsenal, and I'm really excited about Arsenal because of how Saints played against Norwich, and I think there's something there. And I think what's great as well is it's clear that the team has come back with real drive and real fitness, and a real plan, which is great. I'm also excited about Saints playing Arsenal because they're playing Arsenal, and Arsenal, I will probably be pretty wrong and they'll probably beat us, but God, they look awful.
I mean, they were dreadful against Man City, weren't they? And then David Luiz with just the craziest 25 minutes. In a kind of rare tweet about football from Matthew Letizia, he kind of asked the question, was David Luiz's substitute appearance worse than Ali Diaz? I think it was. You think he came on as a substitute?
In terms of harm caused.
Yeah, he came on as a substitute. The ball skipped over his thigh, didn't it, for the first goal?
Yeah.
And then he got himself sent off and gave away a penalty for City to then score their second goal. And that was all in the space of 25 minutes, obviously either side of half time. That was dreadful. And
I mean, he was awful there at the Emirates when we saw. I mean, it was one of those players where I remember watching him and you're like, okay, well, this is a guy who plays in World Cups. He has won everything. You don't get to see many players like that, do you, in the flesh? And then you just watch and you're like, what is this? Is this like a joke? Like, he is genuinely a terrible defender.
Tom, did you know I have a signed David Luiz face mask?
Why? What? From David Luiz or someone else? Why, John?
In 2016, my wife was running an event in Brazil, and she got on the aeroplane to go to, I think, Rio or Sao Paulo. I think it was Rio. I can't remember. And then suddenly, the captain came on board of the ship and said, "Everyone, you've got a David Luiz mask in the pouch in front of you. Where you're you can buy your expensive watches duty free and all of that stuff. All the pamphlets are in. So everyone kind of pulls out that, and they were doing some sort of Emirates Airlines or Brazil Airlines promotion, and so everyone in the cabin on the plane put on David Luiz masks, and David Luiz was on the plane as well. And then they took a photograph, and he was flying over for the World Cup in 2000. Was it 2016 that the World Cup was in Brazil? Or was it 2014?
2004, because they got monstered by Germany, didn't they? 2014.
Yeah, 2014. So that year, and then he went round and he chatted to everyone on the aeroplane and signed all their masks. Apparently, really lovely guy, really funny,
that's nice.
Very gregarious. But that was 6 years ago. He still had a lot about him, didn't he? But then is it surprising that Brazil's most horrendous kind of semi-final, where they got monstered by Germany, happened with David Luiz? I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah.
Now we know what 2020 David Luiz looks like. I mean, Arsenal paid £25 million for him for a season.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
On a 1-year deal?
Yes.
And also, how much wages? What's the other? Pays on 160 grand a week or something insane?
Yeah, I don't know if 25 million is the whole, including the wages deal, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was unbelievably bad against Saints, and he's probably one of those players which he looks good if he's got really good players alongside him. He probably looks all right, but that's just a straight up centre back. The Evening Standard tonight actually reporting that David Luiz is going to be given a contract extension. They really know how to troll their fans, don't they, Arsenal? But yeah, it is. Well, it's you two minds, right, John? Because you sort of think, oh God, man, I wish he was kind of playing against Saints.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? But I suppose Arsenal have no central defenders.
That is true. And they've got and they've got also the worst player the most horrible player in the world.
What, Guendouzi?
The clone of Luiz is Guendouzi, who is just a nasty, horrible team player, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember him at the Emirates?
Yeah, I do.
Just horrible little fouls and pulling people's shirt back and just getting in people's faces, getting in the referee's face, throwing himself around on the floor. Like, it's just a real horrible little piece of work, wasn't he?
The SH1T Housery award would go to Guendouzi, doesn't it? And I think that's the thing about Maupay and that incident that was at the end of the Brighton game. Was, Maupay has said that Guendouzi was going on and on and on, like all game. He was talking to Maupay, trying to wind him up, trying to kind of like force mistakes out of him, telling him he gets paid more than him and this, that and the other. But, it clearly didn't work because, at the end of the game, Brighton had won and Guendouzi was angry with Maupay, grabbed him by the throat, which apparently is legit because he's had no ban, has he, Tom? So he is going to be playing.
It was weird. Yeah, he's going to play, and I think it's strange, isn't it? Well, apparently it's because the video referee saw it and decided that there was nothing in it. But it does seem a little bit weird because why wouldn't? I mean, surely there's something in that.
Yeah.
He grabs him by the throat. I mean, it's not like this isn't the 70s. This is like a pretty.
Do you know what I think? Things
pretty
happened
tame
there?
Football.
It was right at the end, wasn't it? It's the final whistle's gone. I reckon, the video referee is sat there in his little box, wherever it is. He's probably watching it on Zoom these days. Maybe he's bursting for a wee. He's gone, oh, thank God, the final whistle. Throws his headphones down, quickly runs off to the loo, misses it, comes back. And they were like, oh, yeah, what did you see? Did you see that at the end? It looked a bit like handbags. What was going on? Oh, yeah, there's nothing in it. And now he's just kind of trying to cover himself. Because he should have been there watching it, but he'd actually looked off to the loo.
It was so bad, man. I mean, he should be suspended. And it annoys me because I moan about him, but I actually do think he's quite good.
Mm.
And
I'd rather him not be in the team than be in the team.
Yeah, because he's the sort of bloke that if he wasn't there, you can imagine sort of Saints press would kind of overwhelm the Arsenal midfield, but now not quite so sure.
I think the press
I'm excited about playing Arsenal.
Isn't the press? The press is going to have a good chance against the Arsenal defence trying to play the ball out the back.
Yes,
I mean,
they definitely will, because they did that against us at their place, and that's just what they do.
Exactly. And if you look at our next two fixtures, we've got Arsenal and we've got Watford. And Watford fit into the team that know how to play direct football, have a big, athletic, strong, powerful forward in the shape of Troy Deeney, who kind of like Antonio before him causes us problems that we have with big, powerful, athletic centre forwards.
Very much so.
And actually, I'm probably looking forward more to the Arsenal game than I am to the Watford game.
I think we've got more of a chance against Arsenal than we do at Watford. I mean, if you Watford, sorry, I thought that since Nigel Pearson took over, they've won like 5 of their 8 home games. Their home form's been as good as anyone since Pearson took over, and they'll be buoyed after obviously a good result against Leicester. And I can't remember who they play next.
I think they're against Burnley.
Burnley, yeah, who aren't really up to much. Well, Burnley were in good form before the break, but yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's just fascinating because you can see Saints should beat Arsenal. Arsenal's away form this season has been awful. Arsenal won only 9 games this season compared to 11 that Saints have won. And obviously a win for Saints will see us go level on points with Arsenal. We'll see our goal difference is massively inferior.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at this, Tom. Basically, if we win 8-0 against Arsenal, then we'll go ahead of them on goal difference.
I thought we had to win by like 14. That's not too bad. We can do that.
Well, yeah, our goal difference is -14 and theirs is 0. So obviously, if it was 7-0, then they'd be on -7. We'd be on -7. But obviously, 8-0, that would tip the balance.
That's why you're a clever man than I am, John, because I'm so one-dimensional. I can think of that. I mean, yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about the Arsenal game. I mean, I don't think I can watch it with you and your family on Zoom, John, because the fact that you guys were 35 seconds ahead of me for the Norwich game was one of the most difficult experiences I've had in a few months. So we might have to see how that goes. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I wonder if the rest of us, if we could all just sort it out so we're watching the same stream as you. Because what was this? You were using your smart television.
I was watching Now TV, on my allegedly smart TV.
Yeah. See, my allegedly smart TV is not smart enough to allow Now TV, so I had to use the old Channel 11 pick. So if I want to use Now TV, I have to plug in the laptop into the telly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
Well, let's try and sync it up because it was quite nice. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was just like being there with friends. I think. Yeah, I'm excited. What's your prediction, John?
I think we're just going to edge them out this time. It's going to be 2-1 to the Saints.
Oh, yeah, because you can't see Aubameyang and Lacazette not scoring, can you? They have to score against Saints. Yeah, I think 2-1's a good bet, and he going for your goal scorers.
I think Danny Ings is going to get one again. I think he looked really sharp.
He loves a goal, doesn't he?
And maybe James Ward-Prowse is going to chip in with one.
Unlucky goal, ball cleared off the line against Norwich.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And also, it's at sort of 6 o'clock, so you finish work and you can just straight away start watching play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the day that I'm going into campus is tomorrow, Wednesday, so that, I'm working from home on Thursday. That means quick finish.
And the thing is, right, we win that, we're on 40 points, and all of a sudden we're looking up.
Yeah. No, probably what we're going to do is get the flip-flops out, take the foot off the gas.
Yeah. Oh, we do it every year. But, apart from, what we got some tough games in Liverpool, obviously, and Man City. But the title could be decided by then.
Yeah, that's
true. We got Liverpool? No, have we got to play Liverpool?
No.
Oh, I made that up. Who have we? So we've got two of the tough games. We've got Man City, Man United, haven't we? That's who we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are our two games that are really hard. And also Man United at their place without, any of the crowd behind them.
It's going to be different, isn't it?
It's going to be different.
So
our last 3 games, John, Brighton at home, Bournemouth away, Sheffield United at home. It's just that middle 3 of Man City, Everton and Man United.
Yeah, I mean, Everton are only 1 point ahead of us, right? So
yeah,
we shouldn't be afeared of them.
I mean, it's an away game as well, and we've got to fancy our chances away from home.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't won away at Everton for about 1 million years either, have we? It's kind of like a real bogey ground.
Yeah, just donkey's years. We never get anything at Everton ever.
Watford, however, Vicarage Road, I think, is a slightly happier hunting ground. Shane Long got the fastest goal in the history of the universe last time.
Yeah. And did we win that game, John, or was that 1-1?
No, that was 1-1. The season before was a draw as well with that awful handball from Decore. Do you remember that?
The night of my engagement party.
Oh yeah. And then Claude Puel, Southampton, I think won 4-3 there, or was it 3-2?
Oh, that was when Nathan Redmond got a couple of pilots, didn't he?
Beautiful stuff. So, that's a pretty good record, isn't it, from the last 4 seasons? 1 win and 2 draws.
I mean, you got to think. I mean, they're going to be fighting for their lives, aren't they? Because they don't get anything at Watford. If they don't get anything at Burnley, they're going to be fighting for their lives. It'll be really interesting. All these games are quite interesting, actually.
Yeah. And so that game is Sunday. So it's kind of a bit like we're in the Europa League with a Thursday-Sunday fixture combo.
And is that on TV on Sunday?
They're all on TV, Tom. You've just got to have the right channel.
I know. I need to maybe stream some TV.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, it's exciting.
The only other things I have in my so I've got 3 more things, Tom. Nathan Teller.
Yeah. I don't know what to make it. I mean, it looked all right when he came on. I mean, he got clattered and he didn't make a big deal of it, which I think is always a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah. We've got Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and his future.
going to go, isn't he?
Yeah. And then I've got an email from Dan Beggs. You ready
What's
for
Dan
this?
say?
Dan
Hear
Beggs
me.
says, great to have you back to listen to, guys. What a win. After a shaky few minutes, we had hold of the game and crucially just didn't stop. Norwich seemed to have trouble lifting themselves out of walking pace. Is there actually an away advantage, in quotation marks, now, as teams will be training on that pitch from time to time in the weekend? It will feel the same as a match day. What do you reckon, Tom?
Well, I think our away advantage is going to come from the fact that our style of play works quite well, doesn't it, for the away team?
Yeah.
We are better without the ball. Weirdly enough, we're more dangerous the less the ball we have, and at home, obviously, teams will want us to come onto them. But whether I don't know. I think this is the thing, isn't it? It's all out the window. No one really knows what's gonna really happen.
So well done to Dan. You've managed to find the I don't know answer in this week's podcast. We haven't seen enough of the Premier League yet to know whether home advantage or away advantage is still a thing, do we?
No. I mean, if you look, so what have we had? So obviously Man City have trounced two teams at home, but that's just pretty standard for the course. Been a few, I don't know. I mean, also Saints Norwich went the way you kind of expected to.
Yeah. I mean, Newcastle won at home, but Chelsea won away. Brighton won at home, but Wolves won away. Palace won away. Southampton won away.
The games are kind of going the way you'd expect to, are they? Or am I being a bit flippant there? The better teams are just winning games.
Yeah, let's have a look. So, Man City, Arsenal, went the way of Arsenal. Villa, Sheffield United was a 0-0 draw, but that was just odd. Spurs, Man United, you could see that being 1-1. Saints, Norwich, Bournemouth, Palace. Palace is better than Bournemouth. Wolves are better than West Ham. Brighton, are they better than Arsenal? There's a question. Leicester, Watford, draw.
Yeah.
Everton, Liverpool, draw. Chelsea beat Villa away. Newcastle beat Sheffield United 3-0 at home. That's an interesting result. That one I think stands out. They did go down to 10 men, didn't they? Yeah. But that one is really the only one which I think stands out as an odd result, and perhaps the Brighton versus Arsenal. So I don't know. We've not seen enough yet. I think, Dan, is the answer to that. But who knows? I think it's something that's really fascinating to look out for, because you're starting to see, are teams actually improved by the presence of their fans or not?
Yeah. Well, I think, the crowd at St Mary's has not been the most positive for Saints over the years, the last couple of years anyway. So, you could argue that it's maybe on Thursday, it'll benefit Saints. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, or you could say it'll have a negative impact because, Arsenal would get intimidated by the crowd. Who bloody knows, John?
Who knows? But thank you for your question, Dan. He's listening in all the way from Hong Kong. So there we go. Listeners, if you do want to email in, you can do it saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com or tweet us at saintsfcpodcast on Twitter. Tom, I've got nothing else to talk about. I suppose we didn't give a prediction, did we, for the Watford game, which we ought to?
Okay. Do you want to go first, John?
No, you go first. I went first for the Arsenal.
I'll go for 1-1 Saints. 1-1 Saints Watford there. Yeah, hedging my bet.
I'd be content, I think. I mean, if my Arsenal prediction comes true and we beat Arsenal, then to get a draw against Watford, I'd be very pleased with,
Yeah.
Five points from the... 7 points from the first 3 games would have been amazing. I think 5 points from the first 3 games would be certainly a decent return as well. So,
yeah, I'd agree with that. Well, I guess we'll watch the game on Thursday and we'll report back. Yeah.
All right. Well, Tom, I look forward to speaking to you next time and hopefully see you on a collective Zoom call shortly.
You will do, John. Speak soon.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.